mean, we have weeks more to go of this. And even if the Trump administration decides that it wants to de-escalate or push the war or the conflict into a different phase, the Iranians are not going to let the Trump administration out of this. And I think that's something that the administration never bargained on, never provided or created alternatives for how to deal with it. Trump needs to win here. All the Iranian regime needs to do is to survive, and they're doing much more than that. So I think we could be looking at weeks more of this conflict. And even if, in fact, the broader, more intense kinetic phase ends, the conflict between the new Iranian regime or the old one with Mojtaba Khamenei as new supreme leader is going to continue in another form. So I think markets and oil prices are going to remain volatile.
So in essence, Aaron, are you saying that the U.S. and Israel basically underestimated Iran before they decided to attack, and that Iran's military is actually, the strength of their military is really taking everybody by surprise?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Israel and the U.S. in the same boat here. I mean, okay. The Israelis are in the neighborhood, right? They're Mars, we're Venus. The implications and costs for Israel, for Benjamin Netanyahu, are not nearly as steep as they are potentially for Donald Trump in the American economy. The fact is, Netanyahu is the winner here. He's cemented his relationship with Trump. He basically has changed the conversation from a fraud issue, Palestinians, to one that the Israeli public is solidly united behind, which is the threat from Iran. No, the Israelis could live with this, quote unquote, for the next several months or even longer. Wow. The administration's relationship with the Gulf states, who have seen their bet on Iran become a very bad one, and life as they've experienced it, as they want it, financial stability, security, the UAE as an entrepot for financial markets, the Saudi plan for Vision 2030, all of this is now thrown open. And it's unclear to me what the potential is going to be in the wake of this conflict as the Gulf states try to figure out how to reconcile their dependency on the U.S. That's the paradox here. Incredibly dependent on the United States and yet incredibly vulnerable to Iran because geography here is destiny.
And speaking of geography, in his comments today, the new supreme leader called out his neighbors. He actually said, our neighbors are our friends. But their actions speak louder than words because they're actually attacking a lot of these very places. And one that comes to mind is Dubai, which up until this war had really seemed like a safe haven or, a hands-off location in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, I think the line the Iranians are practicing horizontal escalation, right? They can't match the U.S. or Israeli military. U.S. and Israel has escalation dominance by and large. But what they've demonstrated is the vulnerability, not just of the Gulf states, because proximity means vulnerability. They've demonstrated the vulnerability of American military bases. And in fact, I think that is another takeaway weeks and months and years from now. What to do about the 40 to 50,000 American forces, probably now over 50,000, and bases in Bahrain, in the UAE, and in Qatar. They're exceedingly vulnerable to Iranian short-range ballistic missiles and drones. And you know what? You've had 140 American service personnel wounded, some seriously with traumatic brain injuries, some with very serious burns, and 7 killed. That reality suggests, despite the overwhelming superiority of the American military and all the damage that's been done to Iran's missiles, what remains of its nuclear infrastructure, and command and control and leadership targets, that in fact this horizontal escalation is a winner for Iran.
Aaron, do the attacks on the UAE risk pulling more Gulf states directly into this conflict?
They've been reluctant, a really good question. They've been reluctant to engage offensively. There have been reports I've seen, I don't know whether they've been confirmed, that the Emirates, which according to the Pentagon are the little Sparta, the Emirates have the most competent and qualified military in the Gulf. They were the only partner that the Americans allowed close and intense cooperation, particularly in the year in Afghanistan. I thought I saw reports that the Emirates had actually responded offensively against Iran. I don't think the Gulf states are interested in becoming the tip of, or even part of, the Israeli and the U.S. spear against Iran. 13 days into this war, it seems to me the destruction and the vulnerability of all of these Gulf states are far too apparent. And they also know the U.S. is what, 6,000 miles away? They're in the neighborhood. And they're going to have to figure out, as will the Iranians, a set of new relations, I suspect, when in fact the kinetic phase of this, and again, this is not going to end with some neatly packaged package with a bow on it.
Right.
It'll go into another phase.